Two ambushes in Texas targeting ICE and Border Patrol in the past 4 days. Yesterday in McAllen, a gunman opening fire on agents outside a Border Patrol facility and was killed in the shootout.
And just days earlier, on the 4th of July in Alvarado, officials say up to a dozen people swarming an ICE detention center, another officer shot.
It was a planned ambush with the intent to kill ICE corrections officers. Make no mistake, this was not a so-called peaceful protest. It was indeed an ambush.
The Department of Justice has now charged 10 people in connection with the brutal ambush on charges of attempted murder. Texas Governor Greg Abbott responding on X, quote, "I bet these idiots will plead insanity because they would have to be insane to do this in Texas," unquote.
For more, let's bring in Texas Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne. Congresswoman, fantastic to see you. These suspects used graffiti, firearms, body armor, Faraday bags, possessed insurrectionist materials and tactical gear. How much time will they get behind bars to send a message and teach them a lesson?
It's a great question. I mean, right now, I think they're facing 10 years for assault on a law enforcement officer. But I'd like to see them locked up for life. I mean, quite honestly, we need to start sending a message that this is not going to be tolerated. And quite honestly, what we need to do is enforce the RICO Act, which means not just going after these onesie, twosie, in this case, 10. Don't tell me this was not organized. We have to start looking at who is doing the organization, who is calling these people, who are funding these efforts, and go after them. I think it's only when you start enforcing those types of acts are people going to be deterred, because right now it's just showing a weakness. If you could have soft targets that could be picked off, you're seeing the rhetoric just be inflamed. And we're seeing that rhetoric be inflamed further and further by my Democrat colleagues. Even in Congress, you see some of the things that are coming out of their mouths that just absolutely shock me. They're calling for violence. They are precipitating this. They are incentivizing it in some cases. But I think we need to make sure that we are doing everything that we can to not only enforce the law, but make sure that the people who are organizing this type of crime against our law enforcement officers face the full extent of the law.
Wanted to ask you about those Democratic colleagues. A lot of irresponsible rhetoric, and of course, a lot of them didn't seem particularly upset by that spate of Teslas getting set on fire. Now we've got attacks, attempted murders on ICE facilities. Do any of your Democratic colleagues, have any of them come to you or come out saying that this is absolutely horrible and wrong and we want no part of it? Or are you finding generally silence, or what is the reaction now?
I'd love to be able to say I'm going to be hopeful, right? I mean, in all fairness, I have not been in D.C., so I have not talked to any of my Democrat colleagues. I would like to think that at least some of them recognize the fact that this kind of inflammatory language coming out of elected officials that are calling for violence, that are calling for people to fight the very agents that are only in place to enforce the laws that lawmakers like myself have put on the books, that are in place to be able to secure our borders and make sure our communities are safe, which is exactly what the majority of Americans voted for in November. I would like to think that they would have a little bit more common sense. I haven't seen it. And I think what's really important is you've got, representatives like me speaking out about this. I appreciate the media in some cases, like Fox News, speaking out and identifying this hateful rhetoric. I would love to see my Democrats step up to the plate and start talking about what's going on and start having them condemn their own for this type of hatefulness that has led, in this case, to an officer being shot in the neck, as well as the ambush by 10 people on an entire area.
Pramila Jayapal called people obstructing ICE inspiring. So it's soft pedaling, we're saying.
That's not soft pedaling. I mean, that's helping, right? I mean, they're saying that they should be doing these types of things. You had 10 people. Think about this. These are people who want to go home to their kids. They want to be able to go home to their families. They have a job, which is to help protect communities against crime. When you have people who come into our country illegally, like it or not, that is a crime. These people are in place just to help us feel safe and to make us safe. And instead, you've got elected officials who are attacking them them and are calling for other people to attack them. It's not right. It's disgusting, and they need to be held accountable.
True. Now, Congresswoman, next topic is a new research poll, Pew Research poll surveying 25 countries, showing that our neighbors to the north and south, Canada and Mexico, view the United States, not Russia or China, as their country's greatest international threat. They cite economic threats as the top reason. Second is national security. Well, I'm glad they're not looking at national security when they regard us as the greatest threat. That would suggest relations really have deteriorated. But are you hoping that when these trade deals get done, that improves? Does this concern you to see this kind of feeling among our friends and neighbors?
Oh, you want to talk about national security? Do you really want to look at our South and see how many people have entered our country illegally in the last 4 years? How much fentanyl has come into our country from both our North and our South border, regarding national security? But from an economic perspective, a trade perspective, Canada and Mexico have been absolutely walking all over the U.S. When I talk to American businesses that do work in Mexico, for example, they talk about how, especially under Obrador, their companies were targeted. They were taken advantage of by the government. When we look at the USMCA and the provisions that were in place for fair trade between Mexico and the U.S., between Canada and the U.S., it wasn't happening. We were being taken advantage of. Canada has a way too close a relationship with China. They are very woke. They are very overly progressive, and they're basically blaming their lull in economy on the U.S. We're hoping with these trade agreements that we're going to be able to talk some sense into them. Look, you need us a lot more than we need you. We want to work with you. You are our trade partners. Let's get to work.
Yeah, in Mexico, there are murdered dead bodies hanging from bridges, and we're the threat. And then Canada, they get butt hurt when one of us mispronounces Saskatchewan. So y'all's feelings aren't our problem. How about that? Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne.
Megan, I love you. You say exactly what needs to be said. That's exactly right. I mean, let's look at the real issues. Let's look at the real enemies, and let's see how we could partner together. But come to the table and be willing to work with us and stop taking advantage of us. Yep. Recognize that the U.S. market is valuable and treat us as such.
Amen. Good to see you, Congresswoman.
You too. You too. Have a great week.